My sister tried to steal my dream wedding by faking a terminal illness, but her lies unraveled spectacularly. My fiancé, Mark, and I had been together for 7 blissful years before he proposed on a picturesque cliff overlooking the ocean. It was everything I had ever dreamed of, and I immediately threw myself into wedding planning with an enthusiasm that probably bordered on obsessive. We decided on a destination wedding in Santorini, Greece, a place I had always envisioned as the backdrop for my perfect day. The guest list was carefully curated, the venue booked, a stunning caldera view terrace, and the dress, a custom-designed ethereal gown, was already in fittings. My parents were thrilled, Mark's family was supportive, and everything felt like it was falling into place. Then came the call from my sister, Clara. Clara and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, beautiful, effortlessly popular, and seemingly able to do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I, on the other hand, was the studious, quiet one, constantly living in her shadow. While I loved her, there was always an undercurrent of competition and a sense that I was never quite good enough. As adults, this dynamic continued, albeit in more subtle ways. She'd always find a way to one-up me, whether it was a better job, a more luxurious vacation, or a more impressive partner. So, when she called me, her voice trembling, and delivered the news that she had been diagnosed with a rare, aggressive form of cancer and had only a few months to live, my world stopped, all thoughts of wedding planning vanished. My perfect day suddenly seemed trivial in the face of my sister's mortality. I immediately dropped everything and flew to her side. Our parents were distraught, and the house was a somber place filled with hushed conversations and tearful embraces. Clara, pale and frail-looking, gave a convincing performance. She spoke in weak whispers about her bucket list and how her greatest wish was to see me get married. She even managed a weak smile, saying she hoped to be well enough to stand by my side as my maid of honor. I was heartbroken. My sister, my only sibling, was dying. Mark was incredibly understanding, offering to postpone the wedding indefinitely. He said our love was strong enough to wait, and that my family needed me. My parents, though, urged us not to. They said Clara's spirits would be lifted by the wedding, and that it would give her something to look forward to. Clara herself, with a brave sniffle, echoed their sentiments, saying she wanted me to have my dream wedding and wouldn't forgive herself if her illness ruined it. We decided to proceed, albeit with a heavy heart. The initial joy was replaced by a bittersweet urgency. I found myself trying to balance wedding preparations with spending as much time as possible with Clara. She was undergoing aggressive treatment, or so she claimed, and would often disappear for appointments or return home looking exhausted. She'd tell me vivid stories of her struggles, of the pain, the nausea, the fear. My heart ached for her. One evening, about 2 months before the wedding, Clara called me, sounding weaker than ever. She said her doctors had given her devastating news. Her condition had worsened considerably, and she wouldn't be able to travel to Santorini. My stomach dropped. The thought of my sister not being there, especially given her supposed prognosis, was unbearable. She then, very weakly, suggested that perhaps we could have a small, intimate ceremony at our parents' home, just for her. That way, she could witness my wedding before it was too late. My parents, already grief-stricken, jumped on the idea. They believed it was a beautiful gesture, a way to honor Clara's last wish. Mark, bless his compassionate heart, agreed, though I could see the disappointment in his eyes. He knew how much Santorini meant to me. But how could I refuse? My sister was dying. I began making arrangements to cancel the Santorini wedding and replan a smaller, backyard ceremony. It was a whirlwind of frantic calls, tearful explanations to vendors, and apologies to guests who had already booked flights and accommodation. Many were understanding, but a few expressed their frustration, having already invested significant money. I felt terrible, but Clara's health was paramount. During this stressful time, Clara seemed to rally slightly. She was still frail, but she'd have good days where she'd be more animated, even offering help with the scaled-down wedding plans. Her suggestions, however, were always oddly specific and a little too enthusiastic. She'd insist on choosing certain flowers, a particular color scheme that was distinctly her style, and even tried to convince me to wear a different, simpler dress that she happened to love. I brushed it off as her trying to live vicariously through me, given her unfortunate circumstances. Then came the fateful conversation. My best friend, Sarah, had flown in to help me with the last-minute planning. She had been my rock through all of this, offering endless support and a shoulder to cry on. One afternoon, While Clara was supposedly at another treatment, Sarah and I were going through some old photo albums. We stumbled upon pictures of Clara from a few years prior, when she had dated a very wealthy, older man who was known for his extravagant parties. In one photo, Clara was wearing a vibrant turquoise dress, laughing with a group of friends. Sarah pointed out something odd. "Isn't that the same dress Clara wore to your engagement party last year?" The one she said was her lucky dress. I looked closer. It was. And then, a tiny, almost imperceptible detail caught my eye. In the photo from years ago, Clara had a distinctive birthmark on her left forearm, a small, irregularly shaped mole. But in a more recent photo, taken just a few weeks ago when she was supposedly battling cancer, the mole was gone. It was a tiny detail, but it sparked a flicker of unease in my mind. People don't lose birthmarks that I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was the lighting, or a trick of the angle. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Sarah, ever the perceptive one, noticed my discomfort. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. I told her about the birthmark, and she frowned. "That is strange," she mused. "You know, something else has been bothering me. Clara seems to be recovering remarkably well for someone with a terminal illness. And her treatment appointments are always at odd times, and she never has any visible side effects. No hair loss, no extreme weight loss, no severe fatigue that lasts for more than a few hours." Sarah's words echoed the subtle anxieties that had been gnawing at me. I had dismissed them, of course, because who fakes cancer? Especially their own sister's wedding? But the questions began to pile up. Clara's sudden recovery on good days, her overly specific suggestions for the new wedding, the missing birthmark. It was all too much. That evening, I confided in Mark. He listened patiently, his brow furrowed with concern. He, too, had noticed some inconsistencies, but like me, he had attributed them to the emotional turmoil of the situation. "We need to find out for sure," he said, his voice firm. "We can't just let this hang over us." The next day, Mark took the initiative. He discreetly called Clara's alleged doctor, claiming to be me, asking for an update on her condition. The receptionist, after a brief hold, informed him that there was no patient named Clara living at our address in their system. Mark tried another doctor, and another, all with the same result. No Clara. My heart began to pound in my chest. That's when Mark remembered a detail. Clara had mentioned a specific, very exclusive oncology clinic across the country, boasting experimental treatments. It was a long shot, but he called them, explaining the urgency of the situation. The clinic, after a few discreet inquiries, confirmed that a Clara had indeed been a patient there, but that she had been discharged months ago, fully recovered from a very minor, non-cancerous benign growth that had been surgically removed. They emphasized that it was never life-threatening and certainly not terminal cancer. The world tilted. My sister, my own sister, had lied about dying to steal my wedding. The betrayal was a physical blow, leaving me breathless. I felt a surge of white-hot rage, followed by a wave of nausea. Mark, seeing the raw agony on my face, pulled me into a tight embrace. "I'm so sorry, my love," he whispered. "We'll fix this." We decided to confront Clara. We waited until she returned from her latest treatment, her eyes fluttering dramatically as she sank onto the sofa. "How was your day, Clara?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. She sighed dramatically. "Oh, you know, same old. More grueling treatments. But it's all for you, sis. I just want to see you happy." Mark then stepped forward, holding up his phone. "Really, Clara? Because I just spoke to Dr. Miller at the oncology clinic. He said you were discharged months ago, fully recovered, from a benign growth." Clara's face went completely blank. The color drained from her cheeks, and her jaw went slack. The carefully constructed facade crumbled in an instant. She stammered, tried to deny it, but her words were weak and unconvincing. "Why, Clara?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why would you do this? Why would you lie about something so horrific?" Tears welled in her eyes, but they felt fake, performative. I wanted attention," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You were getting everything. The perfect fiancé, the perfect wedding in Greece. Everyone was so happy for you. I felt like I was fading away. I just wanted a piece of that attention." My parents, who had been listening from the doorway, walked in, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. When we explained everything, their initial disbelief quickly turned to furious disappointment. My mother started to cry, not for Clara's supposed illness, but for her daughter's shocking deception. My father, usually a calm and collected man, was livid. "How could you, Clara?" he roared. "How could you put your family through such pain for attention, for a wedding?" Clara, cornered, finally broke down into genuine, ugly sobs. She confessed everything. She admitted that she had felt jealous of my happiness and the attention I was receiving for my engagement. The idea of me having a lavish destination wedding in Santorini, a place she had always dreamed of going, had become unbearable to her. She wanted to disrupt it, to make herself the center of attention, and to force me into a smaller, less glamorous wedding that she could control. She even admitted that she had been subtly trying to steer me towards a dress and a decor style that she preferred. The thought that she had manipulated our family's emotions, weaponized their love and concern, and nearly destroyed my wedding, filled me with an anger I had never known. The aftermath was a blur of anger, tears, and painful confrontations. My parents were devastated by Clara's deceit, and their golden child illusion shattered completely. They insisted she apologize to every single person she had manipulated, including all the guests who had been inconvenienced by the fake cancellation.as for Mark and me. We had a decision to make. The backyard wedding was off, obviously, but the thought of replanning the Santorini wedding, after all the emotional trauma, felt daunting. Yet, the idea of letting Clara win, of letting her deception dictate our special day, was even worse. We decided to go back to our original plan. It was difficult, and some of our guests were unable to rebook their travel, which was heartbreaking. But the overwhelming majority, once they heard the full, unbelievable story, rallied around us. They were disgusted by Clara's actions and even more determined to celebrate our love and support us. Clara was not invited to the wedding. My parents, though heartbroken, agreed that her presence would only taint the day. She was grounded, had her credit cards taken away, and was forced to get a job to pay back some of the money lost in the replanning efforts. Though the emotional damage was irreparable, our wedding in Santorini, despite all the drama and stress leading up to it, was everything I had dreamed of and more. The sun was setting over the caldera, casting a golden glow on the whitewashed buildings. Mark looked incredibly handsome in his suit, and I finally got to wear my custom-designed dress. The air was filled with laughter, joy, and a profound sense of relief. During my vows, I looked at Mark, my voice choked with emotion, and whispered, "Through every challenge, every unexpected twist, your love has been my unwavering constant. You showed me that true love isn't about the perfect setting, but about the perfect partner by your side, weathering every storm with grace and strength." My relationship with Clara is still estranged. We barely speak, and when we do, it's strained and formal. My parents are trying to mend things, but the trust is broken, perhaps beyond repair. What Clara did was unforgivable. She tried to steal not just a wedding, but my joy, my dreams, and my family's peace. But in the end, her malicious deception only strengthened my bond with Mark and showed me the true meaning of love and resilience. And for that, ironically, I am almost grateful.